So today we're going to talk about scatter plots and line set regression. So we're going to do it one by hand and one with the calculator. So good news, we're going to get to use the calculator in part of this. Now first we're going to talk about how to figure out slope the best fits, all right, by hand. So if you get a table sort of like this, okay, now the first thing that we have to do is asking us that we need to plot this. So we're going to draw a scatter plot first. And I'm going to do it real quick. So I'm just going off of these, right? Notice that unfortunately they're not in order. So, you have to start with 1, for example. And 1 is about right here. So let's say there's 1 here. Let's say there's 1 at 310. So 310 somewhere around there. We have another 410. So there's another one there. And let's see, what else do we have? We have a 612. We have an 815. Somewhere around there. Let's see what else we got here. 1220. It's all the way over here. Let's see what else we got here. 9 and 17. Just about there. Let's see if we got anything else. We got a 10 and 19. So the scatter plot, just basically you're going to plug in every point that you see there, where in this case the experience in years is X and the hourly rate is Y. Okay, so once you have done that, we're going to draw a line that best fits. All right, so a line that best fits, if you don't have a calculator, you just kind of do your best to draw a line that more or less tries to hit all the points. Now, I'm not going to hit all the points, and that's okay. All right, so the point of it is not to hit every point. Otherwise, it's not going to be linear. All right, so make sure you just draw a line right through there. And then the correlation, you can tell that it's a positive correlation, right? You have a positive slope. And then now we can say it's a positive correlation. Apparently I forgot how to spell correlation, but there it is. And then now it says, write a prediction equation that shows how many years of experience are related to the hourly rate of pay Y. So we're going to write a prediction line. So to do this, the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to figure out a slope. Now, it turns out that you can actually graph, well, most of these points, right, and figure out a slope. Now, what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to grab the first and the last point. So notice that I'm going to grab, for example, this point right here, 1 and 7, and let's see, where's the last one here? 12 and 20. Okay. So I'm going to grab those two. And I'm going to use the slope formula. And remember, the slope formula was this. Y sub 2's minus y sub 1 over x sub 2's minus x sub 1. All right, so that's what I'm going to do over here. Okay. So now, if I do that, let me put it up here. I'm going to have, this are my y's, remember? So I'm going to have 20 minus 7. I'm going to have 12 minus 1. Okay. And that's going to be 13 over 11. Okay. And which is approximately 1.182. Let's call it that. All right. So that's my slope. So all of that is for my slope. So then after that, what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to figure out a way to get a y coordinate. Notice that the y coordinate, maybe I can approximate that there, but let's not do that, right? We're going to use what's called the point slope formula. You can actually see that up here. Okay, so this formula essentially, after you get done with it, is going to give you the y is equal to mx plus b, just like the one that Miss Shelton was teaching earlier. So we're going to use the point slope formula. Y1, all right, is going to be the y coordinate. Now, the y coordinate can be any point that you want on here. It actually doesn't matter what point you pick. You might get a slightly different answer, but for this one, I'm going to pick this one right here to be my y, and that's my x. All right, so I'm going to write y minus 7 is equal to the slope that I just found, which is right there. Then I'm going to have x minus my x coordinate. Now, my x coordinate is going to come from here. Okay? So one more time, the formula that I was using, which is called the point slope formula, that turns out to be a formula that I use quite a bit in calculus, but there's nothing hard about it. would be that, right? So I'm just rewriting the formula there for you. All right. If I go ahead and simplify, so to get this into y equals form, I'm going to distribute this. So I'm going to get this, and I'm going to distribute this number right here to that -1, and I'm going to add 7 to both sides. That's going to give me 1.182x, and obviously use the calculator for this part. I'm going to get 5.818. Okay, so that's the equation that I have, that I came up with. So I'm going to write that over here. So y is going to be equal to positive 1 point. Hang on, what did I do here? No, that's right. Okay. 1.82 x plus 5.818. Okay. And then now what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to leave that alone. It says use this function to predict the hourly rate. All right. So I'm going to use this function. Remember, this is function f of x. So this is f of x. I can write that again like that. So I want to find out, I want to predict what the hourly rate is going to be if you have 15. So all I have to do after I come up with the equation, which should be the hard part, is to plug that in. Plug that 15 for x. And using a calculator, you're going to get that this will be approximately 23.55, right? And again, I've already used the calculator earlier, so feel free to use it. And so one more time, the important part about this is coming up with this equation that basically is gonna allow you to predict other, in this case, other hourly rates per year. Okay, so that's that for that. So that's how you do it by hand, all right? Again, remember, you're gonna use the point slope formula. It technically, I tend to pick the first and the last point, like the first point here and the last point here, to figure out my slope. And then after that, you can pick any of these right here to figure out which one's my x and y. So notice that in this case, I picked the easiest one, which was 1 and 7. And that's how you do that. All right, so let's quickly go to the back of this. So this one, we're actually going to do most of this with a calculator. Now, when it comes to something this big, it can become very tedious to do by hand. All right, so what we're going to use is we're actually going to use a calculator for this. Okay, so on this one, they want us to find an equation and graph a line of regression, then use that function to predict the number of women in Congress in the 112th congressional session. So we're going to use the calculator completely on this, right? So we're going to go to this button right here, stat, okay? And then we're going to press enter. When we press enter, it's going to take us to this menu right here. Now notice that I've already put this numbers in, but all you have to do, for example, if you're right there, you just press 104, press enter, and then it takes you to the next one, press 105, enter, and so on and so on. When you're done with that list, right, which is in this case is the x, and this is the y, I'm going to just move over. And if you didn't write anything, it should start with that, and just type in 59, enter, so on and so on. All right, so that is how you do that part. So once you have those numbers right there, then the next thing you got to do, since it wants us to graph it, okay? Notice these numbers, right? The lowest one is 104, the highest one is 109 for x. And for y, the lowest one is 59, and my highest one is 83. So I'm going to pick a window. I'm going to pick a window that's sort of like that. Notice that my minimum is a little bit less than that for my x value, and my maximum is more than that. Or as a matter of fact, I'm going to make it like 125. Because I don't really know what they want me to predict. In the end, it wants me to predict 112, right? So I want to make that x maximum at least bigger than 112. All right, for my minimum, I want to make my minimum for the y coordinates. I'm going to make that 50. Notice that's less than this number. And I want to make my maximum about 130, all right, which at this point I don't really know how many people, how many women are going to be in the Congress in the 112th session. So again, notice that that's how I pick a window. Now, if it doesn't work out, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Just keep changing that window. Now, to actually see those points on here, and I'm actually going to move this one right here. I'm going to show you using this program. So bear with me here. This might be a little slow at first. Okay. So to figure that out, you're going to press second stat plot. And you're going to press, again, I press second y equals. And I'm going to press enter. All right. Now, I'm going to, normally yours is off like that. So go back to on and then turn it on and then graph it. And it's going to look like this. All right. Perfect. That's the line. Awesome. So to figure out the equation of the line that fits those numbers, what you're going to do on here is you're going to go to second, excuse me, I erased that. Let's go ahead and quit that. So go to second mode, go to stat, and go to test. So move over to the right 3, so where you're at there. So one more time. All right, you're going to press stat, which is that button, and you're going to move over to test. Excuse me, to calculate, which is that second menu. You're going to go down to 4, which is linear regression. You're going to press enter. Now, normally, yours might say more stuff right here, but don't worry about it. Just press enter through everything. And this right here tells you what equation I have on here, which is a linear one. Notice that I have ax plus b, which is the form of a linear function. And a is 4.6857, and b, which is y-intercept, is negative 428.028, blah, blah, blah. All right, so I'm going to write that down, because that's the equation that I came up with for the line of regression. Okay. And then now, if I want to know how many people are in the 112th Congress, all right, all I have to do is plug in 112 into that equation, which is 4.686 minus 428.029. And if you do that, this should give you about 96. Okay, and again, I did that with the calculator ahead of time. So notice again that what I had to do, all right, if you want to see this line actually in action, go over here, and on y1, just type in that equation that I put on here. If I type that in correctly, or pretty close, I should be able to see that line. Let's see, make sure I got everything right. I should be able to see that line run through those points, and I do, right? So I know I did this right. Now, you can either do this by hand. If you want to get the same number, what you can do on the calculator is you can press second, go to trace, and go to value, which is the first option. So press enter, and it's going to ask you, what do you want to know? Okay, I want to know how many congresswomen are in the 112th Congress. So press 112 here, and that should give you about 96.803. Now, because we're talking about people, right? We're talking about people. I'm not going to round up. I want to round down to 96. Again, I know I went through this pretty fast. So if you have questions about how to do this part, the calculator part on the homework, make sure and ask this, okay?